Break it down, 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 down.
What up? Hey, welcome back to the Blockument. Crypto education through everyday conversations. My name's Nate Talbot. I'm the executive director of Detroit Blockchain Center. And to my right is the illustrious
Ashlee Rose. I am your everyday mother. I'm an online reseller, and I'm on a journey to figure out what in the heck is all of this crypto, Bitcoin, blockchain stuff about.
every time. And like, this is like show 39 or 40 or something. You haven't figured it out yet?
No, have you?
No. We got a special guest in the house today that we're gonna get to in a second. The world's most famous other Nate.
Other Nate.
Before we dive into it, though, what time is it? What does the time chain tell us it is?
The time chain tells us that it is block number 826,707.
Mm-hmm.
The size of that block was 1.59 megabytes, which is comprised of 4,014 transactions.
All right.
And the subsidies and fees for that block were 6.836 Bitcoin, which equals $285,665 US dollars. The winners of that beautiful sum of money were Antpool.
Antpool, look at them putting transactions in blocks again.
Yeah.
No more empty blocks.
Yeah.
All right, and we got a special guest in the house today, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody I've known for some years now.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Years.
I will let him do most of the introductions, but he is, I would deem, the most successful, long-running Bitcoin meetup in Southeast Michigan, especially on a weekly basis. People who've never done a meetup before, especially like a Bitcoin meetup, have no idea how hard it is, just to do a meetup, no matter how you do it, then to be a full psychopath and do it weekly through bear markets.
Yeah.
And
the only time I think we had to cancel is because the bar actually canceled on us.
Yeah, like the city shut down one week. It was the only time. So
the weather was too bad or something.
Right. So Nate, introduce yourself. Tell us why you sort of started doing Bitcoin meetups, why you started doing Bitcoin at all.
Yeah, and who you are.
Yeah.
Sure. I am Nate. I think my Twitter handle was on the thing, but Ford does not sponsor me. I just happen to, it's before 5 p.m., so I need a lot of coffee. After 5 p.m., I need a lot of beer. So
that's right.
One or the other.
We're going to get him on the breakfast bourbon.
But it was either this or the Harry Potter mug, so I went with this.
All right.
But yeah, so I've not been in Bitcoin that long, relatively. I got into it really during the pandemic, COVID, when I saw the government printing all this money. Not that they weren't before, but it just seemed on a new level. And I've always kind of been a libertarian, or I guess before that, for several years, I kind of became a big libertarian, a big fan of like Dave Smith and kind of the Mises Caucus libertarians, for those that know. And Bitcoin came along, and I don't even know what a couple people were talking about. Maybe I think even Elon Musk was tweeting about it back then. So I hate to say, I don't want to give him the credit, but anyway, once I started to hear about it, I dug into it and went down the rabbit hole for a couple months. I think I listened to one of the first ones I listened to was Gary Gensler's MIT series on blockchains, which I didn't even know who Gary Gensler was now. And then it's funny now that he's such a huge figure and stuff. So anyway, long story short, I was full into it. And then I was like I was like, I got to tell friends and family, let's talk. And every one of them just did not care. They could not be bothered to care. So I was like, well, years ago, I used to go to these meetups just for like co-ed mixer stuff, things like that. And let me just start one of those and see who shows up. And maybe at least if one person shows up, I can talk to them about it. And if no one shows up, I'm always at this bar on Wednesday nights anyway. So
Yeah.
what's the worst that can happen? So
Yeah, that's awesome.
The worst that happened was, what's this, about 2.5 years later.
Yeah.
yeah. So what was that was June, I think, of 2021 or 20. I always forget I think it was 21.
Yeah, maybe 21.
Because
that's going
COVID
on
just
3
started
years
in
then.
20.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And this guy was the first one to show up. He showed up day one. I was like, what? Someone showed up?
Right. So for people who don't know, because I don't really talk about what I do very much, right? So Detroit Blockchain Center, we're educational, nonprofit, and it's sort of what I do is just find every opportunity possible to talk about freedom money, peer-to-peer systems, distributed systems, and why our current system totally sucks. So yeah, I'm always mounting on like the meetups, and I've been doing this since like 2016, 2017. So I have years of meetups. I've been to them around the country, which is why I feel qualified enough to call yours like the most successful one, at least in Southeast Michigan.
Yeah.
They're not weekly. You got some competition coming for success out of Lake Satoshi and that crew who does a lot of orange pilling, which I love to see because there's no such thing as competition, right?
Right.
Not in this. But yeah, so I saw his meetup pop up. I'm like, I'm going.
Yeah.
And like Nate said, he was like, as long as he had one person to talk to. So I think for about 6 months, it was just us.
Yeah, and I'm
most
actually
part.
The two
still
of you?
surprised there hasn't been a day where it's just been. Well, I know you'll always be there. Has there been a day that's just been the two of us? I don't think so.
Not since then. We started, it was just us. The first people we orange pilled were the actual people who work there. So we pay, like right now I pay my full bill in Satoshis. I don't even pay cash anymore. I just go straight Satoshis. We were doing just tips only. Now I just pay. Nice. They'd rather just have me pay the bill in sats and then they'll pay my bill.
Yeah, but we got them on. They love the Lightning Network. We got them in, and it was actually an interesting learning experience for us because we started with Blue Wallet or Moon Wallet, probably. I think Moon Wallet is. We were really challenged to find a stable Lightning wallet that didn't disappear in 6 months or that didn't have all these weird issues with sending and receiving, and we were really good on Wallet of Satoshi. That was great because we could make a whole static QR code for them that they just they bring it out during their shift, and you just scan it and send.
Send, yep. But then Wallet Satoshi sort of rug pulled us because they were like, we don't like government regulations, and the U.S. is very unpredictable. Which actually taught me the lesson. So it just pushed me even further to take control of your own Bitcoin, whether Lightning, actual Bitcoin route. Yeah. And if you're going to depend on somebody, go for the names, the Cash Apps of the world, maybe the Strikes, who's Popular River. But if I'm going to rug pull, I'm going to rug pull myself.
Yeah.
At least I only got myself to blame.
That's right.
But just one more thing about all the things Nate does and why I asked him to come be a guest for today's topic, which we'll get into in a second, is a meetup can be one of three things, especially like a Bitcoin meetup. The first thing and sort of the worst thing is it can devolve into a gambling shitcoinery fool. And as I've proclaimed here, it's not that I'm a Bitcoin Muslimist. I'm very open to other projects. Nate is not one of them. He's Bitcoin. I won't speak for Nate, but Yeah,
I tried to buy some ETH once. I think I had it for about a day before I felt dirty and sold it. So.
Yeah, right. But the worst kind of meetup is the kind where it's just about the dollar action, right? We meet up every week for 2.5 years, going on 3 years soon. I can't think of 1 week where the conversation was number go up. We might talk about ETFs. People will come in now, talk about number come up with that. We really quickly converge that conversation into more of why Bitcoin. Besides number go up thing. So that's the one kind. Another kind is where you can come And you just randomly, you got a bunch of people who don't know much about anything, or maybe they know a little bit of stuff, and you're just sort of bouncing ideas off each other, which is cool. But it's like preaching to the choir, right? And you're not really pushing things forward.
Yeah.
And then why I sort of love, not sort of, like I absolutely love what Nate's put together is it's driving actual adoption. From when we started getting the bar to accept it. We have a couple of the bartenders there who will, even if the bar didn't officially accept Bitcoin, they went from, hey, I'll let you pick 50-50, you want all cash, you want just Bitcoin only, right? So it's actually driven adoption. Then we have, right around this block height, we're prepping up for the 2024 Super Bowl. So last year, Nate had the genius idea of running this thing called Satoshi Squares. We got a bet and pool. Hold that up real quick to the camera.
Yeah, this is so cool.
So if you're a Super Bowl fan, you might be familiar with a game called Super Bowl Squares, where you sort of randomly pick a square.
There you go.
Yeah, where you randomly pick a square and then based off some randomness scores. Go look up Super Bowl Squares. I'm not going to score it there. But we have Satoshi Squares. So let's do Satoshi Squares where we take sats. We don't take dollars.
Yeah.
You pay in sats, you win sats, and it's helped us figure out some of that adoption as far as how do you onboard no coiners or even if they are Bitcoiners, but they're still very light in the game.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, how do I do it?
Yeah. Kind of like me, honestly. Like, you guys are going to push me. I'm going to buy some of these, but I don't transact often in Bitcoin, and I'm going to do that today after the show. Maybe
we'll... After the show, we'll do a quick block notes, and it'll do.
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll witness how to do it.
Yeah,
but
it's
cool. Shown us, like Nate was saying, all of those challenges to onboard people, and that's really what I'm in it for—the educational piece.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's one of the interesting things I've seen with it is the people has to start thinking in terms of Bitcoin to fiat conversion rates, even because I remember one of the guys there, Charlie. I remember last year when we did this. He was convinced the price of Bitcoin was going up, so he's like, "I got to buy the squares now because they're cheap." And so it's this constant kind of you start to realize this relationship between Satoshis and fiat, just versus buying a $10 Super Bowl square. You're buying it in Satoshis, which you buy it now, it could be worth whatever in fiat. Could go down, could go up, but that whole where you have to kind of train your mind to think in multiple dimensions of currency is interesting.
Right, because each square is priced in Satoshis, not in U.S. dollars. It's priced 25,000 Satoshis. It could be $10 because that's what it was when you picked that number. Yeah. But today, it could be more or even less.
Yep.
Yeah,
but it's still Satoshis.
Yeah, so I had all these BTC ETFers. It was a little bit concerning in the back of my mind. If we had gone to 100K Bitcoin and we had you had bought in at 25K, before that it would have been $10, but after that it would have been like a $40 square. So it's like...
But again, it's about changing that mindset, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's 25,000 sats.
Right.
I don't care what I'm not buying Bitcoin to make more fiat. That's backwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that bridges us partially to the topic today. And being the Bitcoin only viewpoint, one of the raging debates over the past 18 months or so has been, is Bitcoin crypto? Right? And so I thought, I have my viewpoint. I think Nate has a differing viewpoint, and I think you have a neutral viewpoint at the moment.
Yeah.
So I thought today would be a good day to have an honest conversation about it and not necessarily trying to change anybody's mind, but get some points.
Yeah.
Why should I have to figure out the counter argument when I got somebody who has got the counter argument, right?
Yeah.
So that's today's topic. Is Bitcoin crypto? And being the guest today, I'm going to let you sort of start it off. What do you think?
Oh boy. Okay. I hope so my first thoughts is philosophically, Bitcoin is not crypto. On a technical matter, we have to get into the details, but I concede I might be wrong because it does use cryptographic technology, all that kind of stuff. But what is Bitcoin crypto? My first thought as an engineer is, what is crypto? Do we have like just the generic? Should we ask Siri? What does Siri think crypto is? What's the definition of crypto? Because we got to be we got to be technical about
I'm
this.
going to Google that while you...
Because maybe my definition is different than yours, and so let's align on what we even think that means.
Yeah. Define our terms that we are all speaking the same language.
Do we want to ask a Google type, or do we want to ask Chat GPT?
Maybe probably whatever your favorite AI flavor.
Let me, hold on. Don't share my screen yet. I might have to log into something. Passwords, OPSEC, blah, blah, blah.
While he's doing that, what would you define crypto as? Just curious.
I guess I kind of just lump everything as anything using cryptographic technologies, so all the hash things and things like that. But it's weird because I think there's a lot of stuff that's been using that for a lot of times, but it's not necessarily monetary focused or shitcoin focused, whatever. So that's why I start to get confused because, there's lots, like GitHub uses hashes and stuff like that, right? So is that crypto too? So
yeah. And actually, you guys watching, if you want to, in the comments, tell us what you think crypto is. That would be wonderful as well.
Yeah, because
Because it seems like it's like it's like very loose, like it's up to interpretation.
Yeah, it can be.
I guess not very loose, but like loose enough to where you could be holding a definition in your head while I'm holding a different definition, and then we're using the same term, but we're meaning different things.
Right. But I guess when I initially said philosophically, I think it's very useful because a lot of no-coiners, like every time they come up and they just Bitcoin, crypto, they think it's all the same thing. So they think Dogecoin. Is it Dogecoin? Doggycoin?
Who knows?
Doge is the original.
I always said Doge.
I definitely don't say doggy, I can tell you that much.
I hear people always say Doggycoin. I'm like, is that what it is? It's not 2 G's in it, but I don't know. That's where I really, as a philosophical, maybe more emotional argument to say, no, I'm willing to just say it and just say, I don't care if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is not crypto because people, if you allow that, you allow a whole bunch of other stuff in there that now they're linking these two together, and they are, if they happen to fall under the same umbrella of crypto, they're about as far apart under that umbrella as crypto as you can possibly get. And I think maybe that's where I'd like to understand. Maybe we can derive a difference.
That's what I was going to say. I wish there was like a separate term that maybe doesn't exist yet that kind of defines like the revolution part of like crypto, like what its intent is. Maybe we can think about that and ponder on it.
Well, let me ask you, Ash, and I'll go last. What from your everyday mother reseller, you do a little bit of everything.
The average gal.
What do you think? Is Bitcoin crypto as far as you understand everything?
I mean, again, I think that crypto can be interpreted in different ways, and I think that technically, yes, it is. But I feel like maybe a word that I could use would be like culturally. No, it's not.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Because there's words out there that have different meanings.
Right.
If you use them in a cultural sense versus a technical sense. I'm at a loss to think what they are, but I know if I think long enough.
Like literally?
Literally.
If you look in the deck, change the definition of literally to actually mean like figuratively.
Yeah, exactly. It's exact opposite.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a great one. I like that.
All right, so should I give my input, or do you want to hear what ChatGPT has to say first?
Let's hear yours, and then let's go to ChatGPT.
All right. So I am in the Bitcoin is crypto camp. And the reasoning behind that is because it was the first crypto. And while I agree with the cultural sentiments both of you seem to have, I guess maybe I'm more hard-headed. I'm not giving up what we are. I'm not giving up what this is just because somebody else tries to co-opt the term. I'm going to fight you for the term.
Yeah.
And I think a way to rephrase it, and the way I think about it, is, all right, are horses transportation? And just because cars come along or trains come along, does that mean horses are no longer transportation?
Right.
Right? And I'm not going to if I was a horse purist, I wouldn't let cars or trains or planes redefine what transportation means.
Right.
They're different forms of transportation. They have different philosophies. They do different things. I might think horses are the best form of transportation. I hate to align Bitcoin with a horse because it's more like a bullet train or a hypersonic airplane, but I'm not going to change the definition of the word just because scammers came in and tried to co-opt it, and that's being a sort of midterm in Bitcoin terms, right? 2013, 14 Bitcoiner. Being this, the only reason the argument has come up that I can tell is because, you know, when you first got into this, Nate, I think there were like, in like 2019, 2020, there might have been like 9,000, 10,000 different cryptos at that point. When I got involved, there were probably like 800. And now it's, I mean, I don't even know if anybody has an active count. It's well over 20,000 different cryptos. And so I absolutely appreciate the sentiment, right? Like, don't lump us in with them. When you talk about if regulations are needed, if X, Y, and Z is needed or whatever, I appreciate the sentiment, but I think Bitcoin becomes the shining example of what it means to be a crypto-based currency, which is a cryptocurrency, or crypto for short. The fact that everybody, Elizabeth Warren, Gangsta Gensler, everybody, Biden, Trump, all of them anti-Bitcoin from all of their latest sentiments at this block height. All of them anti-Bitcoin. All of them into regulating the shit out of the crypto space.
Vivek is looking okay.
Well, but he dropped out the race. So he's no longer a presidential.
But he might end up with Trump's ear. I don't know.
That may be true, and then I would change my argument. If that happens, yes. But as of today, the actual real contenders that are established, all of them anti-Bitcoin and crypto. I mean, Trump's really borderish because he loves his NFTs. But the point being,
likes to print money.
The point being, when they talk about actually banning something, none of them are talking about Bitcoin. They're trying to make it hard to get it. They will straight out, Ethereum's borderline. They're not sure if they can ban it yet. Everything, though, on the other side of Ethereum, so there's Bitcoin, then there's Ethereum, then there's everything else. Everything on the other side of Ethereum, they're actively working to ban and get rid of entirely. So like they're not touching all altcoins. Ethereum altcoins, because I think there are no more altcoins to Bitcoin besides like Monero. The Bitcoin, though, they're not even considering touching. Like, the best they can do is make it hard to custody it in the U.S.
Is that true for Warren, though? I think Elizabeth Warren would love to just, even Hillary Clinton.
I think all of them would love to. I think they all realize they can't with Bitcoin. The only person I think in government who's ever actually tried and like still would try is Sherman. I can't remember his first name. He's California.
Brad Sherman.
Brad Sherman.
Yeah.
Now he's my Twitter banner, right? His whole thing, Bitcoin's point is to take away power from the U.S.
Yeah.
He said that like 5 years ago. Yes, you are right. He's the only person who's got it, the point of what Bitcoin is. But not mine, again, like many things I say aren't originating from me. But somebody once said, when China banned Bitcoin for like the 8th time, right? And they had pointed out you can only ban something once. After that, you've just proven you couldn't ban it at all. Right? You can't get rid of Bitcoin. And that is, to me, the epitome of what it means to be a crypto. Right? And I love regulations. Not because I love regulations, because the point of Bitcoin is it sits above regulations. It takes money and puts it above government, not below government. And if you can regulate it, you shouldn't be in the conversation in the first place. And so you don't qualify as a crypto. You don't qualify as freedom money. You are just another thing, part of the fiat system, part of the institutional system that this Bitcoin was created to circumvent the cypherpunk movement. So that's my definition. That's why I say Bitcoin is crypto, and it's arguably the only crypto. Everything else just isn't crypto.
Now that's a different take. So you're actually taking it a step further. Bitcoin is the only crypto, and anything else is crypto, which... So
I like that better. I feel
actually that one I disagree with the most, because I think the other stuff is crypto for sure. It's just, but I do agree with the idea that it's lesser forms of crypto.
Yeah.
But that two thoughts before you move to the ChatGPT.
The ChatGPT.
Remind me of a recent FUD argument I heard over the week. I've had a couple guys from Silicon Valley in at work, and we've been doing a lot of, and so I told them I had the Bitcoin meetup on Wednesday, and so they started asking me about Bitcoin, and had an interesting, when you brought up China, an interesting FUD on Bitcoin, kind of China related, that I hadn't quite heard this variation before. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it. And then the other one is the WEF's been going on all week, and did you see that clip from Jamie Dimon?
From CNBC?
Maybe it was CNBC, but I don't know if it's in context to WF or what, but his take on Bitcoin and how much of this, you just talked about all the politicians that are against it, but we know who pulls their strings.
Right.
If you've got BlackRock and begrudgingly JP Morgan and all these other guys pushing these ETFs, then what, I always go EFT, ETF, EFT. But how does that play into this, larger dynamic of, I know this is kind of getting off topic, but like the larger dynamic of all these politicians lining up and saying, no. Well, if the bankers start to change sides, then that's an interesting dynamic that I think will probably play out over more this year, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's going off topic at all. I think that's exactly on topic. You got a take on it?
I think that if they are trying to, sounds like regulate it, then that means that they're giving their okay stamp, that this is crypto, and this is good, okay, because they want to use it.
I think Larry Fink, who's the CEO of BlackRock, is a good example.
Because I heard rumors he might be pushing an ETH ETF.
Oh, no. I have zero doubt, right?
Which means now they're going to push crypto.
There will be an ETH. Matter of fact, never financial advice, because everything I say will get you absolutely wrecked and broke. So never take financial advice from me. But that was my prediction. 2-3 months ago, when it looked like, okay, this Bitcoin ETF is inevitable at this point.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, if you're in it for the gamble, start buying ETH.
You did say that.
Because it's going to pump. That's the next logical choice. If Bitcoin goes through, ETH is the only next logical step. And then if you really are a degenerate, then you go for something like Solana, maybe XRP, because their fan base is so high, they think they're next. And they're going to be better than ETH.
So then it becomes a popularity contest?
So it becomes, it's a gamble because it's about speculation. At that point. Now, I'm not telling you they have a chance of doing it, any of them, ETH included, but the speculative aspect, it's going to go through the roof. And we saw that as soon as that first fake, not the first fake Bitcoin got approved, but the second, I guess, fake Bitcoin got approved on the day of the deadline. ETH Bitcoin dumped like people thought. ETH pumped because they were like, oh, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? But when it comes to, is it a crypto, is it not a crypto, or why, your question is sort of relevant. If you take Larry Fink as an example, now, I still assume the worst in people. That's sort of just how I don't trust, verify.
Well, especially people at that level.
I think Larry Fink's, he used to be anti-Bitcoin. I think he saw the number go up, and that wasn't going away. It was not the tulip thing. He got over that first pit of FUD. Then he was like, well, if it's going to be a thing, let's make it a thing. And they've been subtly moving into Bitcoin pre-ETF for about a year or so, year and a half, that I've known of. But I think what differentiates him from like a Jamie Dimon is he actually started looking at it and he's like, wait, there might actually be something to this thing beyond just speculation. And now when you hear him talk, you'll hear people try to bring up it's blockchain, not Bitcoin argument or other things. And yeah, he's still on the ETH and the tokenization, but especially if you're a Bitcoiner, you know the arc because you've been through it, right? And he's at that phase where like tokenization is a thing and Ethereum can be a thing. It doesn't make you not a Bitcoiner. It means there's Bitcoin, there's something else, almost sounding like what I was just saying, right? So maybe I'm still early in my cycle and still evolving. But I think he's on that tip. But when you hear people sort of debate him on try to FUD him on Bitcoin, he actually has some logic and he makes sense. Things that only if you've actually got a certain level of understanding. And when it comes to pulling the strings, and like Nate will know, you'll know, Ash, and if y'all don't know, you're going to know now. I've always been anti-institutions are coming. I don't like stable coins. I don't like the idea. I didn't like when the grayscale futures GBTC thing popped. I don't like the ETFs. I don't like the idea because I'm not in it for governments and corporations to get involved. Yeah. I'm in it for the worst of worst positioned humans to be able to have access to actual sound money. But I realize... If I want it's like freedom of speech, right? If I want freedom of speech, I gotta like all speech, not just freedom of speech is the shit I like. Yeah. And if I want freedom of money, I gotta like everybody having access to money, including corporations and government. And I think that's what's happening to their detriment.
Yeah. See, I still. Going back to Larry Fink, I also don't trust anyone in that level of power, and I don't trust him, and I don't know what he's got up his sleeve, because I feel like I understand why none of these politicians like it. Anyone that's won basically the fiat game all these people that won the fiat game, meaning they have millions and billions and whatever, of course they don't want Bitcoin, because that's like they got to start over and it's an equal playing field. So why would you want that? You're already winning at this rigged monopoly game. Why would you want to start a new game where you can't rig the rules anymore? So I understand like they would spend billions to get rid of it or do whatever they had. And I'm actually surprised they're not more aggressive about it in terms of trying like devious things. But
I think you're only wrong on one point. They don't realize that about Bitcoin. I think Brad Sherman is possibly the only person on the other side of the playing field who really gets it. I don't think anybody else gets it.
You think they don't realize this can take down their entire monopoly on fiat?
I came to pre-Bitcoin. I came to a couple assumptions, right? Like, the middle class can't exist naturally, right? There is no middle class. There's lower class, upper class. Middle class was like this freak of nature. It lasted about 75 years out of the entire human history. But part of that... and we don't have to go off on this tangent, but constitutional republic, this what we call American, I hate the term democracy, but this has only existed for, 200 years? So... No, a little bit more than that. Like the first forms was Greek, right? And then the Romans.
Didn't we have a middle class back in the Roman? Wasn't there kind of like a pleb class or I don't know. But anyway.
There's always a middle, right? If you think of it like a triangle and an upside down triangle. Of course, there's a meeting ground right in the middle. Sure. We've always had that. What's different is that triangle sort of inverted.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
It was probably bloated more than it should have been.
75 years. It's going back to this. But that belief came from the idea of power can't be taken. It can only be given away. This is my theory. And that's because if you really had power, as anybody would define having true power, well, if you had power, nobody could take it.
Right. Yeah.
Being able to take it means you never had the power. And so usually through arrogance, right? And hubris. You give away power. Egypt gave away power to like Sumerians. Sumerians gave away power to the Greeks.
Isn't it almost always unknowingly? You don't realize you're doing it, but yes, you are giving it away. Because if you knew about it, you could stop it.
Yeah, you're like, I can't, I'm so big, we've won so many wars, I can't be defeated.
So it has to be unknowingly, unless you're
an actual idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what's happening with the money now, right? I think the Larry Finks and the government officials, with the exception of Brad Sherman, he gets it. From everything I've heard, he gets it. They don't understand where their power devolves from. They don't understand why they maintain the power, truly. And so when they see something like Bitcoin, they think it's a new pet rock. And throughout all of human history, as far as I know of, up until Bitcoin, a new thing would pop up. Gold wasn't always gold. Right? Humans been around for hundreds of thousands of years. Gold's been a thing for like 5,000. When gold first popped up, what you could do with gold is realize, here's a new thing. I'm going to first hate on it, and I'm quite sure, I don't have historic evidence of this, that can maybe be my next research project, but I'm pretty sure they hated on gold until they can accumulate control of it, because you have to dig it out of physical land, and the only way to protect physical land is having a stronger punch or a bigger arrow or a bigger bullet, right? And once they can hoard it and they have control of it, now for the plebs, it's, oh yeah, gold is great. You see the same thing with like clean energy, with all these energy debates, regardless of your position on energy, right? A thing of oil companies hated on renewable energy for years. I don't think it was ever because they thought renewable energy was dumb. It's because they didn't have a grasp on it. Now that the BPs and the Mobiles have the solar farms and the wind farms, now they're pushing for all that. What's that? That ESG stuff. Yeah. Because now they control it. Now we can benefit from it. Yeah. Bitcoin, people are used to that. Larry Finks are used to that. They're not used to it being the disguise, and Bitcoin is the biggest Trojan horse. You think if I make it ETF, if I get government approval, I can seal it off. But the thing with Bitcoin is it's transparent and it's permissionless. So unless they control 51% of the nodes of the mining,
and that's the attack vector I'm surprised they don't go for.
But you can't, because China has proven, again, remember, China is mining is centralized. It's all in China. As soon as China decides no more Bitcoin, and China decided no more Bitcoin, and what happened?
But that was more for the mining infrastructure, right?
But the mining infrastructure is the base infrastructure of this. And miners just moved. Here's the thing. I guess, to me, the philosophy is we get really close to, we're very edge conspiratorial talk, right? And it goes almost to like that, is there an Illuminati or not?
Yeah.
I've always been sort of against some conspiracies, because to say that no conspiracies exist, you're a fucking idiot. But things like the Illuminati. Here's the one. To agree that the most powerful people in the world are plotting together to undermine the rest of society, if they got that kind of power, they don't have to plot. They can just do it.
Oh, but isn't that what the WEF is?
That's what the WEF might want to be, but here's the thing. People in the WEF can't agree on how they want to take over the world, and that's what I understand,
I think.
That's
what's funny.
Yeah.
Even the people in power, let's say there's 10 key entities. I'm making that number up, but let's say there's 10. There's always going to be at least 2 to 3 who disagree with the other 7.
Sure.
And it stops that from happening.
I think they're still effective on some levels, right? They still get...
Absolutely.
I think a lot of the whole COVID lockdown stuff a lot of it was influenced by discussions they had and whatnot. I think if you look at like Klaus Schwab, I mean, the guy just bleeds evil dictator, evil world, like... comic book movie, like I'm going to take over the world, and you look at his outfits, you're just like, this guy is a caricature of himself. But does he have any power in of itself? No, but he has a strange amount of power, and that they have that little thing in Davos every year, and they talk about how, you heard some of the ones this year, the ladies, like, they were talking about, the one lady was just seen clips of it on Twitter, but she's saying they were very upset that they no longer control routes of information anymore, and they don't own how to get information to people.
Good.
Yes. I mean, it was, I don't know. I just saw clips of this stuff from this week, but I thought it was a very marked difference in the WF this year than previous years. Malay came in and ripped him a new one.
Well,
The guy,
Malay
the head
alone.
of the what's the other one? There was the Heartland or something. There was another guy that came in and did the
Not
same
sure.
thing from the U.S. But they got a different message this year, and I think they're a little bit on their
That's
heels.
my point.
Yeah.
You would think the WEF had all this. It's the World Economic Forum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're admitting they have no control. Power can't be
That's true.
taken. You either never had it or you give it away. And regardless of what the situation may have been, they ain't got it. They want it back, hence CBDCs and all. I'm old enough to remember 4 years ago, every government laughed at the idea of a CBDC. Mm-hmm. I don't know one government who's not taking it serious.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're going to do it soon, none of them don't take it serious.
Yeah, no, and I think that's very interesting because those guys often rely on the illusion of power, right? Mm-hmm. Klaus invites all the world leaders there because he wants everyone to see we've got all the world leaders here, and then they also feel special because they're invited to this exclusive club. But when they start to realize when people start to realize the emperor has no clothes, to your point, not only do they lose their power in like an instant, and now they're just irrelevant. And at least as long as they have this kind of veneer of we're all plotting and it's all for the good of the people and blah blah blah. But once that falls, it's interesting to see what's going to happen because I was very shocked to see how that went this year and the chinks in the armor that got exposed. So.
Yeah. What you got for us, Ash?
Yeah, I wrote down a bunch of questions. I figured I'd just let you guys talk and then I'll circle back. So a couple things that I wrote down. Let's see here. So and you have to correct me if I'm wrong because this is just from my understanding. So the ETFs kind of open the door. Do they open the door for the politicians and the government to kind of like pervert BTC in a sense, like, okay, so now they're turning Bitcoin into receipts, which US dollars are receipts. So could they essentially just basically make a new fiat using these Bitcoin backed dollar? Like, could they back the US dollar with this and then kind of be like, oh, we're bridging both of them and we're still going to have the US dollar be on top?
What if I told you? Do you know who Hal Finney is?
I've heard his name.
Look at Nate's shirt.
Okay.
Can we get a close up of Nate's shirt?
We need to stand up a little bit.
It might make sense just to get some in case it catches on. Okay.
That's a Hal Finney quote. Hal Finney was the first person besides Satoshi that we know of that ran Bitcoin. He had the first tweet, I don't know, what's that, September or January 8th or 9th, running Bitcoin, right? He is iconic in the entire cryptosphere circle. And if you don't know him, your whole project is garbage, right? Hal Finney is the second in line behind Satoshi. People think he might be Satoshi.
Oh, okay, yes.
Right? So, Hal Finney, whole premise was, all right, Bitcoin directly for peer-to-peer cash, probably not a sustainable thing, the trilemma problem. What's going to happen is we're going to reinvent banking. And we're going to bring back the gold standard. It's going to be the Bitcoin standard. We'll have banks, and they're going to issue their fiat notes backed by Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bitcoin banks, for real.
Yeah.
Right? So that is not an ETF description you're talking about. That is not a Larry Fink description. This is Hal Finney, who thinks this is what Bitcoin could be. My personal take on that is that's fine. The problem, I think a misconception many people have is that money printer go burr is the problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem. That is not the problem. Because by saying that, you're saying fiat is the problem. Fiat, technically, has only been around since 1971. Theoretically, fiat, to a point where it's like a whole thing, very like 1890s, early 1900s. So before that, it was a gold standard. Everything was backed by gold or some other commodity, right? From grains to spices to whatever. You either have to admit government interference with money wasn't a problem until the 1900s, or that fiat isn't the problem. As far as my research goes, personally, where the real problem came up was fractional reserve banking. That's where things started to fall apart, where they could, I'm going to hold your gold and lend it out, and I'm going to create money sort of that way, right? And it wasn't fractional reserve in and of itself that was a problem. It's that nobody could audit the fractional reserve. So the biggest problem with gold ETFs is that you can have the gold market cap. I'm going to be off by $1 trillion or so. I know that seems like a lot, but think about what our debt is now and stuff. A trillion isn't a lot. The gold market cap, let's say, is $13 trillion, give or take a trillion. The actual amount of gold we know that we've mined out of the earth is closer to like $10 trillion, which means there's $3 trillion of gold floating around that doesn't exist.
That we've just created.
How can you figure out where the difference is? You can't, because you don't have access to the gold. Bitcoin is the first thing we have that's different. Yes, the ETFs, I think, will make paper Bitcoin. That's going to suppress the price. So everybody's like, oh, Bitcoin ETF prices to the moon, $1 million. Maybe, maybe not. It's not just because there was an ETF, because that's actually going to suppress the price more than boost the price. But the thing we can do is audit the supply. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin, right? We can look at that. If all of a sudden the market cap of a Bitcoin, including ETFs, is, let's say, $25 trillion, but we look at, there can never be more than 21 million Bitcoin, and that's only $10 trillion. WTF, right? And so a Bitcoin bank, even if it's fractionally reserved, we can audit it. And then if the people demand the thing called proof of reserves, which used to be what day was that? The January 9th, the birthday?
Yep.
I think it was the January 9th. It used to be proof of reserves day for a few years, and we should bring that back entirely, where we made everybody take, if you got Bitcoin on Strike, River, Coinbase, Binance, whatever you have that's custodial, if you withdraw it, even if it's just for one day, on January 9th, withdraw it to your own, because if it's not one-to-one, they're going to start refusing withdrawals, which means they don't got it, which means you shouldn't be there in the first place. You can put it back on January 10th, but every January 9th, pull it out.
So it's
every
like an
January
audit
9th,
day.
Imagine if every American who didn't have cash in their pocket went to the bank and said, give me your money. And we saw that happen last year.
Yeah.
And 3 of the top 15 banks were insolvent.
Yeah. So do you think this solves a big word, it's doing a lot of work, but solves the problem of fractional reserve, the fact that we can audit it? Because at some level they won't be able to do, they can still fractional reserve, but they can't go to an insane level, because you'll see it'll become obvious.
It's freedom money, right? Yeah. If you're cool with fractional reserving away your savings or your money, that's fine. That's your independent choice. You can opt into that. If a bank is like we do 10 to 1, you can audit it and know that for every dollar you put in, they're going to create 10 new dollars, and you can audit it. And if you're good with that, fine.
So on a Bitcoin fractional reserve, if a bank says we're 10 to 1, you can look at their stash of Bitcoin, whatever their cap of it is, and if it's bigger than a 10 to 1 ratio, you should be able to be like, all right, you guys are doing something funny.
You're doing something funny. I'm withdrawing. Bank runs happen because of fear. I don't know, so I'm going to pull mine out. I think it changes the idea of banking. I think that's what Hal Finney's idea was. You change the idea of banking. I can see the fractional reserve going off before it becomes a panic. That lessens the chance of an actual bank run. It doesn't.
And bubbles and crashes and things like that, right?
Yeah, it flattens it out, because people fear the unknown. If I know it, I got nothing to fear.
The unpredictability.
Speaking of Hal, another T-shirt idea for you.
Nice.
You do it online. We're not live. You want to give away the secret?
Open source.
Running Bitcoin.
Running Bitcoin. Yeah.
Well, what do you mean by that?
So his first was it tweet? It's Twitter, right?
First tweet.
He tweeted on the. So this is kind of weird. Is that the day the Bitcoin ETFs got approved, January 10th, effectively, which was the day after the birthday of Bitcoin. Hal Finney posted a tweet or tweeted running Bitcoin, and that was the first time someone other than Satoshi was running Bitcoin, and it was the day after. It's the same day the ETFs approved. It's all kind of weird. I kind of think Gary might have had something up his sleeve back there. Maybe he's a secret white hat. I don't know.
Yeah, Gangsta Gensler might really be a true Bitcoiner who's just also trying to have a political career.
Yeah. He owes a lot of favors to Elizabeth Warren, so he's got to be careful. But I think a nice Bitcoin running Bitcoin would be a good addition to the T-shirt.
I wrote it down for you.
Speaking of which, I keep forgetting. I gotta buy some T-shirts from the.
shop. I never advertise anything. Go to DetroitBlockchainCenter.com, shop.
Yeah.
We got T-shirts and stuff available.
Is the FCK
we just posted the FCK KYC.
Nice.
I thought of a T-shirt idea too. Remember?
Yep.
Should I say that one too? Or no?
Yeah, because it's going to be available very soon.
What were we talking about to inspire it? We were talking about,
I don't know.
If they increase the supply, then that would be a fork.
Hard forks.
Yeah, like we were talking about how you could never have more than 21 million Bitcoin, and then we were like, if they they could do it, but if they did do it, then that would be a fork. And then I was like, because then there would be a decision which one is the true Bitcoin. Would it be the one that sticks with 21 million? Never more than 21 million, or would it be whatever the new number they decide is? So you'd have to decide. Well, I feel like the original OG Bitcoiners would be like, fork off.
Yeah, go fork off.
Fork off.
Yep. So we're going to make that a T-shirt design. We're just trying to figure out how the design will look. But we're going to do you want to change it? Fork off.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that a lot. It's a good one.
But I do have something that I wrote down that I was listening and like noticing, and then I kind of want to just like say and see what happens.
Let's do it.
So I feel like it kind of all comes, so like, is Bitcoin crypto? I feel like it all comes down to, okay, like, what is crypto, and like what words we're using to like what adjectives we're using to describe what we're talking about. So it comes back down to language, right? And the definition. So I'll give you my thought first, and then I'll tell you what I heard. So my thought is we need some sort of new like subset or adjective that we can all kind of like agree on to use to describe it. Because if it is a crypto, technically, then it is what it is. You can't change that. So okay, let's say it is a crypto, but it also is something else that there isn't necessarily a word for. However, I keep hearing you say freedom money. So I'm wondering if like collectively we should like all like come together and call it like freedom money, or like freedom crypto, or like some adjective crypto, or like some subset to kind of like be more specific.
Here's what I'd like to see. I love that question, or that thought. Going back to what you said, how you don't want to give up the term crypto for Bitcoin. You're like, no, F you. Bitcoin was the first crypto, right? I would take the inverse of that. Let them have the crypto term and say Bitcoin is capital B. Bitcoin is not crypto. Capital C crypto can be all the other crap, and let them sacrifice that term so we don't get dragged into the muck, because when all these other ETFs come out and someone's going to scheme and scam, there's going to be another FTX, and they're going to group Bitcoin in with that again and all this stuff. Let's just let them have that term, and we keep the little Bitcoin, the little crypto as technical, whatever, but
technical
big
terms.
C crypto and big B Bitcoin
very separate things.
Yeah.
I could concede to that. I could concede to that. And as you were asking your question, like, what would be the adjective? I doubt things catch on that catch on, and I doubt anything we try to force to catch on would.
Right.
But a clear differentiation I would make is that some things are cipher, as in cypherpunk, and some things are not. And it's cipher, not crypto, is the real thing. Crypto is, as you were just eloquently stated, is the technology.
Yeah.
cryptography. Crypto is really cryptography. It
Yeah.
doesn't have shit to do with any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Cryptographers hate that we stole their term.
I actually was curious, when did the term crypto or cryptography first get used? It was probably back in like the 40s or something, I'm guessing.
Yeah, when cryptography.
When they were
this is
trying to
what,
steal all those World
with
War
the
II
Germans
messages,
in the
right?
World War II, yeah.
Was that probably the beginning? Was that the time the word was first used?
Not first used, but I think that's the first time it hit the cultural mentality.
I mean, is it Latin based? What crypto?
Yeah, I
Where
think
does that
crypto is
come
Latin
from?
based.
So it comes from.
I mean, all the way
cipher?
down to ciphering, and this goes back to like
Decipher,
Sumeria and
okay.
things like that. So we've been encoding messages pretty much since we've had communication.
Yeah, it's step one, communication. Step two, how do we have secrets? Exactly.
Well, I'm going to ask, what does cipher mean?
Well, a cipher is just like I don't know the textbook definition, but it's
But
just like
when
a
you
puzzle.
say it, what do you, okay.
Well, cipher, when I say like it's a cipher, not crypto, cypherpunks, which is where Bitcoin and peer-to-peer money, the idea came from encryption. The idea of using math to free yourself from state control
Okay.
and maximize individual sovereignty was a cypherpunk movement made in the 90s. Crypto, theoretically, I know they've changed it now on the web browsers, but if you remember just maybe 6 years ago, when you go to like your bank account on a web browser, it would have the little green lock. Right? That means you're using HTTPS or SSL, whichever phrase you're more familiar with, which just means you have a cryptographically connected connection. Right? If you got to think, if you're in Starbucks and you're connected to their Wi-Fi and you enter your username and password, it has to get to Starbucks, right? To do that, it has to. How does it go? If you're using Wi-Fi, it's got to go through the air till it hits the router. So if you're a hacker, you can just literally pull it out of the air, your username and password. So nobody wants to do that. So the little green lock means when you send it over the air, before it leaves your computer, we're going to use cryptography to cipher, right? Create a cipher. So when I pull it out of the air, all I see is this random string of numbers. I don't know what your password and username is.
And that's cipher.
And only Starbucks can reverse the cryptography.
Okay.
That's the crypto of cryptocurrencies.
And you said it was cipher, not what?
Cypherpunks use cryptography to maximize freedom, and the government, dear listener, didn't want you to have a secure connection to your bank account. They wanted to be able to sniff out what you were doing with your bank account. Just like today, your government, I don't care what country you're in, does not want you to be able to send a text message through WhatsApp or Signal or Apple. That's the difference between iMessage and the green bubble if you're an iPhone user. Green bubble is not encrypted. Anybody can see that message. Blue bubble
I didn't realize that.
is
neither.
encrypted because it's in Apple's own cryptographic sphere. So it's to the point where Apple can't even decipher the messages.
I just got a new iPhone, not a new one, a refurb one. It's still like a
New enough.
It's from like 2019 or something. But I was setting it up, haven't gone through the setup in years. But I didn't realize they had end-to-end encryption, and you could get a recovery key and all that. And so it's like, wow, I'm surprised. I didn't realize Apple had that. But
Yeah.
Yep. That's the thing with Apple. It's like nobody will know. It's like a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
The reason you trust your lawyer is your lawyer will know all your secrets, but only your lawyer. Apple is going to know all your secrets, but only Apple.
Yeah.
But back to cypherpunks, I think underrated, just as equally as good as the white paper, Satoshi's white papers, the Cypherpunk Manifesto. And that, the first line in there I love. I think it was Eric, I can't remember his last name. I'm losing it. Eric something.
Sure.
But he makes a very big distinction that privacy is not secrecy and secrecy is not privacy, and everyone deserves a right to privacy. Just it doesn't mean you're doing something bad. It's like the idea that anyone can anytime read what you're thinking in your mind. You have to have that ability to have your privacy, and that's what encryption. That's what the cypherpunk movement was about: is the right to privacy, not the right to secrecy.
I had we had a little spontaneous meetup over in Windsor over the weekend.
How'd that go?
And it went really good. I met some awesome Windsor and Canadian Bitcoiners and whatnot, and one of them asked that same question, right? Like about privacy. And that was sort of what I was saying. It's like, for you, for anybody, right? The question of privacy versus secrecy and all that is, you have thoughts that rush through your head all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Besides yourself, who has a right to exploit and expose and exploit that thought in your head besides you? Who has a right to say, this is what Nate was thinking, this is what Ashlee was thinking, besides you?
Yeah, only who I deem to have the right.
And that's the difference between, that's what privacy is. Only you have that right, if you're any kind of semi-rational human, right?
Right.
Only you have that right. And therefore, only you should be able to determine what secrets you want to reveal. You know what I mean? And it's not a thing of, you got something to hide. It's like, no, maybe I have nothing to hide.
Right.
But you don't get to choose what I choose to hide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't get to choose what ideas out of my brain I share.
Yeah.
And which ones I keep for myself.
I can get
Right.
behind that.
Which gives me the most hated thing when I someone say this is, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, what do you have to hide? It's like, oh my gosh.
Even if you're, at least in America, maybe you just believe in the Constitution and you don't understand all this other privacy stuff. That was the exact same argument they used against the Fourth Amendment. Not the 11th Amendment. I could even see an argument against somebody like, well, the first 10 amendments are the only ones the founding fathers really wanted. Everything else is an afterthought. Well, yeah, but the Constitution was built for that. But even if we accept that argument, it was the Fourth Amendment, right? It was like freedom from the state when it comes to religion and press, and, there's 5 freedoms in the First Amendment. We need weapons to protect ourselves against ourselves in case we go awry.
Yep.
Right. I'm gonna fuck up because I don't know the Third Amendment.
I'm drawing a blank.
And that's the one that probably.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for him to get to
But
it.
the Fourth Amendment is, search and seizure. Like,
Oh, perfect.
do you have a right to your own?
Right.
So I know now I'm getting screwed over on the Third Amendment because I don't even know what it is when they violate it. So I'm going to fix that.
That's not the one
Yeah.
about housing
I'll agree with
soldiers or something, is it?
I think so.
We always skip that one because it's kind of like,
We don't have soldiers, but yet.
Yeah, you see what's...
We're in Detroit. What happens when we go to war with Canada because they won't let us north of the border? They put up a wall.
Yeah.
And won't let us in.
Yeah.
Man, evil top hat.
Yeah. So is Bitcoin crypto? We didn't really get to the definitions. I'm going to just give you a quick highlight of what the chat Jippet told us, which I asked them first. Can you share the screen for a hot second? So everybody can see.
While you're doing that, the Third Amendment is quartering soldiers.
Okay. So
It was the quartering soldiers.
soldier thing.
Yeah.
Hey, I should have known that the other day. They just threw some soldiers in my house. See, I'm getting violated.
See? Yeah.
So I asked ChatGPT, define crypto with no other context, and it gave me an economic. This is the way I just have my GPT set up to give me all these different perspectives. But basically, it's a currency that uses cryptography for security and operates independently of a central authority. I think it's basically the same for that's the economist, the computer science, and legal viewpoint. Right, legal viewpoint is like it's sort of a gray area. Then I asked it, define crypto in relation to blockchain. And it says cryptocurrencies are applications of blockchain technology, a distributed ledger that records all transactions across a network of computers. Right? Then I said, all right, is Bitcoin crypto? From an economist perspective, yes, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. From a computer science perspective, from a technical standpoint, Bitcoin is a pioneering application of blockchain technology. So I think that becomes a yes.
Species.
And from legal terms, Bitcoin's classification varies by jurisdiction, so it depends on who you ask.
Legal.
So it becomes legal. I think we've done a much better job defining it than even ChatGPT, which is, there is the technical, which you've opened, Nate, the argument with. Technically, yes, it uses cryptography. And if you're going to be very technical, it's absolutely a crypto. Then there's the social realm, which, yes, I see your point. Again, I'm hard-headed. I don't want to give
you are.
away. Because what's next?
Yeah.
It just becomes, to me, everything becomes very slippery slopish. What's next that we give away that we're not? It's not freedom money anymore because all these scams say freedom money. What's the next term we give up? Although I do very heavily empathize with your point, like, screw it, just give them crypto, capital C crypto.
They can call themselves freedom money, but at the end of the
it's
day,
not freedom money.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I feel the same. Just bring it back one step. They can call themselves crypto.
Yeah, but that's a more of a specific term. Like, if it's not freedom money, it's not freedom money. They can call themselves freedom money, but I feel like the average logical person would be able to be like, that's not freedom money.
Yeah.
Like crypto,
you know.
crypto is a little bit more of a loose thing. Like it uses crypto, you know.
I'm telling
so
you,
yes, but
I'm
if it's freedom
hard-headed.
money,
You
does your
guys-
money make me more free? If the answer is no, then you're not freedom money.
I'm hard-headed. You guys are giving very compelling arguments that I'm finding very hard, besides my stubbornness, to refute. So you're probably right in this. And cypherpunk
Probably.
money over crypto money is probably a much better thing. Bitcoin is cypherpunk. And it still holds the elements of cypherpunk. But again, I don't think it's the only cypherpunk. That's
So
a
should we
different
call
show,
it
though.
cipher currency instead of crypto? Like, does that sound fun for us?
Again, whatever
So
we make
how
it
about
won't
this?
be, but
Freedom money thing, right?
Yeah.
The government calls us this freest society of America. We're the free society. The U.S. is the freest. But if you look at like true freedom indexes, we rank like 11th or 12th compared to some other companies. So
I love what the Brits say. It's like, oh, you guys are free because you got guns and shit? You can't even fucking take an egg without it being processed. Don't tell me you're free.
Yeah, we can't have
Your
raw
milk
milk.
has to be homogenized.
Yeah.
Right.
Go grab some water.
we're the freest democracy in America. So
Yeah.
they're going to take these terms and use them however they want. So that's why I'm okay. They can take the term freedom money. It'll just make the term freedom money a joke. But as long as we keep Bitcoin what it is,
The principles. It's about the principles,
the technical,
not the meme words.
and educating people about the differences, right? Because
Yeah.
just you can be told Bitcoin's freedom money, but you may not until someone explains kind of what's going on, then you'll just believe it.
Until you experience not having the freedom
Yeah.
to spend your money, which is a problem most Westerners don't have.
Yeah.
You know?
But, yet.
Well, I don't know. If Bitcoin's the first to coin freedom money, maybe they can be like, we are the one and only freedom money. The one true freedom money.
If you this is me coming to your side on this. I said this wasn't about changing sides, but I think Nate has ultimately won me over.
Oh, you're just
It's not about the terms we use. It's about the results of it. Like I said,
Yes.
I love regulation. If you can regulate it, it wasn't in the first place. If they find out a way to regulate Bitcoin, if BlackRock finds a way to manipulate Bitcoin, the actual network, then it wasn't what we thought it was in the first place. We didn't have what we thought we had.
yes.
And so I don't care about the term. I care
like
about the usage.
Care about the
That's
results.
Yeah.
I don't care about the PowerPoint. I care about what happens, what got delivered, what comes out of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. But in order to drive the adoption, you will have to care about the terms because that's how you explain things to people.
Language matters.
Sort of.
It does.
Ease of use. That's what our Satoshi Squares pops up. So, I'm going to do a plug because we're going to do Satoshi Squares next year as long as BlackRock doesn't fork off Bitcoin.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, last year we sold them at 50,000 Satoshis per square.
Oh, wow.
We roughly target around $10 in dirty fiat. So last year that was around 50,000. This year it's around 25,000. And so I was saying, hopefully next year there'll be
Be like 4,000 sats per square.
Yeah, that'd be great. Especially if I win.
There it is. And so if you're interested in learning how Satoshi Squares, we're debating doing a live podcast during the Super Bowl, which a part of that would be able to show you, if you're involved in Satoshi Squares, you can see real time who the winner and losers are. And if you're interested in the future, you can see how it works.
Right.
So if they're interested in learning more about Satoshi Squares, or they have their own opinions on is Bitcoin crypto, how do they do that?
You can find us on Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter /X. I'm going to say that until the day I die.
Or until they just revert their name back to Twitter.
Yeah. We are at The Blockument in all places. We are on YouTube as well. Anywhere you can listen
Blockument
to
with a K.
Spotify.
Block.
Yes.
B-L-O-C-K.
K. That's right. Yep. And what could I say something else? But YouTube. Oh, theblockiment.com. That's what I was going to
Blockument.com. Where can I learn more about Bitcoin and Beer, Detroit's hottest, long-running Bitcoin meetup?
Well, we usually post on meetup.com or the meetup, but I hear that sometimes people find it easier through Google search. But I would just say every Wednesday. Actually, if you go on Meetup, you see kind of a poster of our thing, and we've got all the characters there. So you were saying earlier about keeping the meetup together, but I think there's a lot of characters that come down. We've got Lightning Eric, we've got Online Vic, we've got a lot of guys that come down and just have, if you liked the banter, the discussion we had here, going all the way up to the WF, back to whatever, that's what we talk about. We don't get too crazy into number go up or the technicals. Right. There's some other meetups that get way into the technicals, and I have a technical job all day, so it's kind of the last thing I want to do when I get to the meetup. I want to talk more socially and more kind of macro about things going on and how it impacts Bitcoin. So that's what we try and do.
There it is. So if you're in the Detroit area on a Wednesday, doesn't matter what Wednesday, Detroit Beer Company, that's where we've been housed for some years. I don't see us going anywhere anytime soon. Check us out, Detroit Beer Company, downtown Detroit, every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
We're very old school. All you need to know, it's a Wednesday, it's 8, and it's 1529
Broadway.
That's the address.
That's the address. Come on down, check us out. Other than that, hit us up. And until then, come down for the riches, but
stay for the revolution.
Peace.
Peace.